Today for the Tacoma, we've got something pretty exciting. Skid plate installs. So this is my OEM skid plate. And as you can probably tell here, it's seen better days. Something really happened my last trip off-road. Did a lot of pretty hard banging around, and I think I just ripped this part right out from the bolt that was holding it in. And yeah, you know, these are thin metal, of course, and people like to complain about that. But you know, some protection is some protection. But I'm trying to move up here, and I've got this one, which looks pretty cool. So, I found off Amazon, and oddly enough, for the second-gen Tacomas, it's tough to find a whole lot in the way of skid plates, except from your kind of major aftermarket manufacturers, and we're talking about $300, $400, $500, that kind of range. And so this one is a bit less, kind of in the $220 range, and it's by APC right there. So a place called All Precision Custom, and they have this red TRD, which is interesting because they aren't with Toyota, so I don't know if they have some kind of agreement with TRD or what, but there's on there. You can also get one that has a black TRD, but it is noticeably thicker and heavier than the OEM skid plate, and has this little access panel right here, but still not crazy heavy. It's not like 3/16 or a 1/4 inch thick steel, but again, noticeably thicker. Seems like it's more robust, but not a crazy, ridiculous amount of weight to be putting up there. And a skid plate should be a pretty simple installation with just 4 bolts to put in there, and they all kind of come, you know, pretty close to the front of the truck here. So let's see how this goes. Now, I've had some difficulty in the past because of this aftermarket bumper, and we're going to see how this one works. I'm certainly hoping that it'll fit there, because I would like to see if I can upgrade from that right there. And this is what you get with it here. We have the hardware, and they have their own bolts for installation. They look pretty small, and they're an Allen wrench kind of bolt. They even give you an Allen key here for that, and little spacers that are supposed to go on the inside. And we have some nice color installation instructions here, but it really is pretty simple. Again, as we see, 4 places to bolt it in, and that should about do it. So as we see, I've already taken my skid plate off. I just had 3 bolts because one kind of ripped out, and when I had all that suspension work done after my last off-road trip from my Tacoma, the shop forgot to put my skid plate back in, and it wasn't until a while later I looked there and thought I had a skid plate. And they still had it hanging around the shop, and they put it back on. But they used, at least for the head of the bolts, 3 different sizes, which was a bit annoying to get this off. But since it wasn't attached right here, and because, as you see, it's kind of maybe at the end of its lifespan, I thought it would be time for something cool and new. Let's see if this works. The one concern I have is my aftermarket bumper here, and you can see it's very angular and slopes down and ends right here. And here, this is where the front bolts are going to go. One over here, one over there. So the skid plate actually extends a bit out past here. It doesn't stop right here. So what's that going to mean here? I do have a little bit of, here's the lip, the underside of my bumper. So I'm wondering how this is going to work here with an aftermarket bumper like this. So we just kind of fit it up, slide in, and see what happens. Okay, so some good news here. With my bumper I have, it looks like I can take this top part here and just sort of slip it underneath and then bolt it up right there. So that's pretty cool. That's some good news. Now here's some not so good news. If I have a bolt started and fitted in here, I can't quite get this one right here. Can you see that's kind of angled? And so it's like there's the spacing of the holes here and here is just a little bit off. So they're a bit too far apart. So I'm probably going to have to take and drill out one of these holes and make it just a bit bigger so that the bolt can slide in. I thought about trying to force it, but I think there really is no way I can do that in all good conscience, because I don't want to really mess up the threads here in the frame this is screwing into. And that just, that right there does not look good. So it really is because these heads here, there's some play in them back and forth this way. So the skid plate can slide a little bit, but there's nothing to the side, and that's just not going to work right there. Another little problem is right here at the end where these bolts should go in. And so that's fine. They look like they're all okay there. But if we look where that's supposed to go in, that's the captured nut that's supposed to go into. And this is just not going to fit, seeing as how the skid plate is really flat across. So if I push it up here, that's that distance, and that bolt really is not going to make it there. It would work if the bolts were longer. So something like this kind of thing right here could do the job. So you're going to need a longer couple of bolts for this back distance right here. And that should work okay there. But, for the cost, this isn't crazy cheap. I would have thought that they would have made it work a little bit better here. It looks like from the description it's supposed to be for 2nd gen and 3rd gen Tacomas, and that might be part of the problem, that it can't be that specific. And you can see in the stock skid plate, it's kind of indented and bevels in and goes like that to get this part of the plate closer to that mount where it's supposed to go in right there. But by comparison, this one by APC is all flat across, so you don't have this extra part here helping you out. So it's going to need some additional hardware and a bit of modification. So to fix these problems, I've drilled out these holes a little bit with a 3/8 inch drill bit, just to kind of give more space around there. I drilled them both out a little bit. Hopefully that'll be wide enough. Filed them down, and then painted a little bit of black powder coat paint, which is actually kind of a bit of a mess, but just kind of sprayed it in here just to get rid of the bare metal. And also picked up some longer bolts. So I think this should help me do it. Okay, so it looks like that did it. Just a little bit of widening the holes here, kind of at the forward end, and that will get both those bolts to go in as they should and not have to go in sideways or angled or anything, but to go straight up there in the threads. So I don't know if that's going to happen for everyone, but that's what I had to do. Not too bad. So all of these either threaded sockets or nuts that are in there for the frame, the bolt they're going to want is an M8-125. And so I've picked up a couple of examples here. This one I got from Home Depot, and this is sort of more of an automotive type bolt. This came from AutoZone, so I can get one long enough to reach in there. Now the tricky thing is going to be finding one that has threads all the way down. Most commonly, this part right here, the shank, is going to be smooth, and the threads are at the end. So I'm hoping these are going to work right here. But again, you just want ones that are, fairly long. This is a 50 millimeter, and these are 40 millimeter in length. The 50 millimeter will definitely work. I'm going to try and see if the 40 millimeter will work. But the main thing is going to be the actual size of the bolt and the threads. And whatever you get, I like this because it's a flange bolt, so I'm going to try and use that. But again, M8-1.25. That's the size. I also picked up some nylon spacers here because we've got more space to deal with than just the little ones that they provided. So we're going to need some taller ones. I've also got some aluminum ones right here. But let's see what will work. Okay, so these 40 millimeter ones from Home Depot will work, even though they don't have the threads all the way at the bottom. You can see the spacer there. The 40 millimeters plenty tall. I do like the flange right here on the bolt. So that's a good solution to have longer bolts for these bottom two right here. I decided to include the plastic spacers underneath my aluminum taller ones in there, just so I wouldn't have to crank it up as much. The steel is starting to bend a little bit right there to really tighten those. So that's okay, but again, that this bolt looks like it's working fairly well. But I thought with more of those spacers in there, that would be a good job. You can see the length that bolt has to go to reach the captured nut underneath there. And because the skid plate is so flat, yeah, the standard ones just aren't going to cut it. But these 40 millimeter ones, I also like the flange there with the nut. I think that'll do a pretty good job right in there. So unless this company changes what they do, you're going to have to buy some extra hardware. Now I want to point out this plate that it has right here. This removable plate, I guess to be able to access something, I don't know, oil filter or whatever for maintenance. And it's just, looks like it's bolted on with the same kinds of bolts that it comes with. I didn't really see any need to have that there, at least on a second gen. But then it's interesting that this is made for second and third gen Tacomas, not 4Runners. That's a different video. So maybe you would need it right there. But it's there as it is. And with my attachment up in the front over here, because I've tucked this top part under my bumper, it might be sort of angling this or bending it just a little bit more than it wants to, but it's a flexible steel, it'll be okay. And I'm sensing a little bit of a gap right here as I tightened up this bolt. So this I'm trying to get this all nice and tight up in here so that it's nice and fixed in position. Again, the one problem is it's just so flat right here, and that's not the underside of the Tacoma. But after the little modifications I mentioned of drilling out the front holes and getting some longer bolts for here, the actual installation is pretty quick. Just 4 bolts, tighten them up, and it's on. I'll check these in a bit and see if they are loosening any. I'm wondering about some Loctite in there, if that would be possible. I'm not sure how I would get it in the front ones. But yeah, of course, something like this, the installation is very simple, quick and easy bolt on. It's just too bad that it wasn't just a little bit of a better match for the proportions of things in here. And here's a bit of a view from the side here. And you can see I've already got some skid plates for my lower control arms, and those are from Cali raised LED. Thicker steel, but these two pieces certainly are working well together. They don't have any area where they touch or overlap, so that's looking good there. And I do like this side protection that comes up right here. So it's not really heavy, thick steel. I think their description says it's 14 gauge, but definitely is a good one, or at least better than what it comes with, and doesn't look bad either. As I was trying to decide how to fit this here, I suppose that I could have taken this front edge, which extends a little bit here, and maybe put it to the outside, so it hung here on the outside of my bumper. But I thought that might push this a little bit too far down from these threaded sockets the bolts have to fit into, and I thought, why would I want to put any extra structure in here to catch on stuff or perhaps get beat up and damaged? This is a pretty solid heavy-duty bumper right here, so it made sense for me just to kind of continue that all along here. I suppose this could have perhaps been mounted so that that front part was outside, but again, it just made more sense to me to tuck it inside, and I might have had to change the angle and bend this a little bit, but that did work, and it looks again like it's almost like it's supposed to be there. So I suppose you could mount yours on the outside if you wanted in a situation like this. Either way might be okay, but this one certainly works for me. It's very functional, and it looks correct also. And that's what it looks like all installed. You're not really going to see much of it from the front, really kind of more from underneath there, but that's it. Really a pretty nice look, certainly stronger than the stock skid plate, and this is a good budget way to go if you want to upgrade a bit from that, and especially if you have some kind of aftermarket bumper that you can see mine really goes down almost like it's a bit of a beginning of the skid plate right there. So finding this one to match up and work with it was a good deal there. Anyway, good upgrade if you want to make a few little modifications, but let's see how it handles on the trail.